big movements, and they all have one thing in common. You see, before, in the 10th century, you had Cluny, which is this great big fabulous social type thing, and these are rather a reaction against that. So your 11th century, all in the direction of simplicity and solitude, most of them, in one way or another. Some of them are Cenobitic, some of them are Hermitical, and some are sort of half and half. But it's all in the line of simplicity and in the line of solitude, see. And the Vallambrosans, for example, they're Cenobitic, but they're remarkable because they're the first ones who introduced lay brothers. They got lay brothers in there. And, you've got St. Nilus down in the south of Italy with a sort of mixture of Italian and Greek monasticism, which is quite interesting. That's a Grotta Ferrata that he had that, just near Rome. It was a Basilian monastery. And then in the north of France, you get movements around different places, Tiron and Savigny and little things like that. They're after Citeaux, really. But now the big thing is the foundation of the monastery from which Citeaux came. And this is important for us, and it's one of these movements. See? And what is the monastery from which Citeaux came, Brother Boris?
Molam.
Molam, yeah. You always get people who think Molam has something to do with Solam, but it isn't. It's very different. So how do you spell Molam, Brother Alcuin?
M-O-L-E-S-M-E-S.
Well, I don't think you need to have the S on the end. Molam, that's the way they usually do it. I think sometimes you do get an S, but I haven't seen it lately. But there could very well be an S. I mean, it's legitimate, but I just think they leave it off most of the time, that's all. Why? Why is there an S? Because in the Latin it would be abatia de molis mis. See? So there would be an S in the Latin, so there would be one in the English too. Well, now, Molam is a very complicated little thing. This is about the time of St. Gregory VII, see, around 1080. Actually, it's before 1080, but around 1080, 1075, let's say, you've got St. Robert going from one place to another. Let's get him on the other side here on this next page. He starts, for example, at the age of 15. He's born about 1028. And at 15, he entered a monastery called Moutier-la-Selle. And then at the age of 40, he becomes an abbot of a place called St. Michael's, de Tonodoris, or de Tonnerre, and so forth. Then, about 1070, sometime like that, he goes to a place called Colan, C-O-L-A-N. Now, what he's doing all the time is his tendency is towards hermits. St. Robert is, you've got to get these first three fathers of Citeaux pretty well lined up because they're fairly different. St. Robert's quite different from St. Albert and St. Stephen. When the chips are down, it's not quite the same proposition. Robert is a sort of a holy individual who is a kind of a spiritual father to a lot of people and likes to be a hermit. See, he wants to go to be a hermit. And he's all the time getting elected abbot of a Cenobitic monastery and taking off to be a hermit someplace. And his life is made up of situations where he gets abbot of a Cenobitic monastery, and after about a few years of that he says, oh, this is no good, and he says goodbye, and he goes off and he joins a group of hermits somewhere out in the bushes, see. And then they make him go back, or they make him go some other place. Well, he joined this group of hermits at Colan, and it's much more complicated than that. I mean, they wanted to get him. See, they were even applying to the ecclesiastical authorities, send us Robert. He wants to come, we know it. And send him. And then they couldn't do it. And then he goes to some other monastery and makes a jump from there to Colan. But anyway, Colan develops into Molam. And it begins as a very simple little hermitage thing with 4 or 5 of them living in huts. See, this is the standard pattern. I mean, this is the sort of paradisiacal age of the monasticism when everybody's living in huts. See, there's kind of a paradise myth of this early monasticism. It's cutting off the branches of the trees and living in huts. That's I mean, I think they did that, but that wasn't the whole story. But I mean, this is the general picture that everybody gets, and that's sort of it's like one's childhood, you see. I mean, in the order, whenever anybody wants to get a little romantic about the past of the order, they say, they used to cut off the branches of the trees and live in huts. See? Well, that's a myth. I mean, it's true that they did live in huts, but it's a myth that runs. This is a mythical theme, which goes back to, say, the